Welcome to Money Tips. Since the Labour government came to power a few months ago, there's been some tax hikes and talks of taxing non-doms and that sort of thing. And a lot of people are talking about getting out of the UK and going to somewhere where there's lower tax and more freedom and that sort of thing. I wanted to give you some alternative views on that. First of all, I'm not sure that everyone will leave. It's very difficult to uproot yourself from a country and just move somewhere else, especially if you've got children. You've got to consider schools. You've got to consider healthcare and private schools, which in many countries can be very expensive for these international schools. Even in cheaper countries like countries where you can live very cheaply, like Vietnam, the international schools are one of the most expensive in the whole Southeast Asian region. And many countries don't even want you. You know, they might say, well, we don't want you unless you've got millions to put into some property or some scheme. But so I don't think that everyone is going to leave. Obviously, if you're a non-dom billionaire, then you've got houses all over the world. You can live on a yacht in Monaco and no one's going to bother you. But for the average person running a small business or a medium-sized business, it's not as easy as you think. So my view is that a lot of people are just going to stay and suffer the taxes and just find better accountants and better advice to reduce their tax. Maybe they'll gradually make a move somewhere else. And also, I've travelled around to a lot of different countries, and yeah, it's nice at first. You're hearing a different vibe, different music, and that sort of thing. But then at the same time, you start to miss things about England, about the UK. You start to miss the normality of life here, the freedoms that you have here. I know that everyone seems to hate human rights in the UK, but it doesn't only just apply to terrorists and criminals. It also applies to the average person. You have got certain rights in countries like the UK, Europe, and America, and Western countries in general. You've got a certain amount of rights in your life, which you don't necessarily have in countries like Dubai. If you're a foreigner in Dubai and you commit a crime, are you going to get fair justice? I don't know. Certainly in the Middle East, you read stories of people being banged up without much of a trial, without access to a lawyer. People in countries where they're locked up and they've got this trial going on in a different language. They don't know what's going on. So it's not as simple as you think. Perhaps tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, there are European Union countries, of course, like Portugal and Ireland, where you do pay lower taxes, apparently. But in some countries in South America, you are taxed at they'll tax you up to 39% based on your income, the income you're bringing into the country. So what's the difference? I know we pay a lot of tax in the UK, but you do get a lot in return. And yeah, people complain, oh, the roads are terrible, this is bad, that doesn't work. Well, try going to another country, try and see how things work there. You'll find that things don't work as well as they do in the UK. There's a lot more bureaucracy. Checking into an apartment can involve, having to produce passports, having to have your photo taken, making payments through certain systems that you might not like to use. It doesn't work. You try again. It doesn't work. Everything you do, you tend to need a passport. Even just changing up, $50 in an exchange. Passport. Give me your passport. Let me see it. And one apartment block, I remember they wanted to see my immigration status. They were checking through the passport about 20 minutes. What are you doing with my passport? And they said, we're checking the immigration stamp. I mean, it's the bureaucracy in some countries is unbelievable. And I found this particularly in countries that, let's say, come from a Spanish colonial type of system. I've seen this in the Philippines. I've seen this in certain South American countries. And Spain, where they've got this bureaucracy. So you've got the system there, you've got the technology there, but then they pull out this paper pad and start, filling in paper and that sort of thing. So it can be frustrating. Things don't work as fast in countries that are still developing, and things can be just a little bit frustrating. You find yourself, oh my God, what, you need that? What for? It's just unbelievable. An example, I was in one place where, it's a nice hotel, it's got a nice pool, and you order some drinks and coffees and that sort of thing, and you've paid by credit card, and at the end they present the bill for the drinks, and they say, no, we don't want credit card, we want cash for that. That's a different section, that's the bar, that they want cash. So you pull out a note, no, I haven't got change for that, I can't change that. It's unbelievable how so many places don't have change of a fairly small note, and you have to then go and change the notes into smaller notes to even spend the cash, and then they don't want to take credit cards. So I'm just giving these little frustrations that you'll find, traffic issues and that sort of thing, and it's not as easy to live in another. It's great having a holiday in another country. It's not as easy to live in the country as a foreigner, and you're still called a foreigner in these countries. You're not just accepted as one of them, and you probably never will be. In the UK, even foreigners that we don't even call foreigners, we call them migrants. You're not even allowed to call them foreigners. They have rights. They also have rights. If they're sick, they're going to get treated in the NHS. I don't know what the situation will be like in a lot of other countries if you get sick and you haven't got insurance. So there's all these things to consider. So I think in reality, most people, certainly in the middle classes and small businesses and small to medium-sized businesses, are going to find it hard to move out. Of course, there's a lot of young entrepreneurs, the laptop entrepreneurs that are probably already flying around the world and living in different countries. They're in Colombia, they're in Argentina, they're in Dubai and that sort of thing. That's a different story, but a business with a physical business and staff and that sort of thing in the UK or in America, and they've got a family here and they've got ties here, that's another story. So let's see what happens. I think the best thing is to get good accountancy advice, particularly in property matters. I've got a property accountant that can help you with moving companies from your own name into a limited company, for instance, setting up trusts, setting up wills and trusts so that you mitigate your inheritance tax. And also, if you're in a business, find an accountant that gives you advice, not just does your books at the end of the year and tells you this is what you've got to pay in tax. You need an accountant that will advise you at the start of the year and say, well, how can we mitigate your tax in the coming year? And what can we do to restructure your business or your accounts or your companies? Or if you want to create a legacy, if you want to leave that to your children, what do we need to do to create that legacy to avoid these taxes in the future? So that's all for now. Thanks very much, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.